Okay, hey guys, welcome to another episode of Coffee and Careers. I'm Trish. I work with Dan Simmons at Continental Search, and Coffee and Careers is a learning platform inspired and conceptualized by Dr. Casey Bradley. So the idea behind Coffee and Careers is really to create something to enable students and animal science professionals alike to network and share and really explore the range of work that exists in the ever-evolving world of animal health and nutrition and its related industries. So our topic for today, we are all salesmen. And true enough, yes, we are. So whether you're a sales rep or a nutritionist or even a recruiter like myself, it's safe to say that if we're serious about building our business, there's a shift to lifelong learning that is absolutely essential. You can't buy engagement. Engagement's something you have to build. And our roundtable for today focuses on technical selling. So we are joined by two seasoned gentlemen, Dr. Jacob Lum with Euroduna and Kevin Martin with Trans-Ovo Genetics. So Jacob is from Arkansas. He's earned a Ph.D. in molecular biology from the University of Arkansas. In grad school, his research studies focused on rapid detection and typing of poultry viral diseases for food safety pathogens. Jacob's held a variety of roles in both research and in technical services. He's worked with Novozymes, with Perstorp, Pacific Vet Group, and today he is presently the Vice President of Technical Services with Euroduna Americas. Kevin Martin grew up on a dairy farm in Maryland. He used to show cattle at both the regional and on the national level. Kevin is very passionate about the cow side of the business. He's knowledgeable about AI, ET, and IVF. And in the early 2000s, his family sold the farm and the herd, which got Kevin started with his own AI business. He joined the Trans-Ovo team in 2010 to help the team get started when they opened the Maryland lab, and then became a milking and barn equipment sales rep with GEA. So GEA gave him the opportunity to relocate to California while still serving in the same capacity for the Western region. In 2018, Kevin reignited his passion for genetics and rejoined Trans-Ovo as the Western region business manager. So sharing with us today about technical selling, please welcome Kevin Martin and Dr. Jacob Lum. Nice to see you guys.
Thanks, Trish.
Thank you.
So to start out for the group, of course, we've introduced both of you, but it would be great to kind of hear your journeys from a technical sales and career and how you kind of went about your roles and how you got to where you are and what skills you've had to adapt into being that technical sales role that we all have. So let's go ahead and start out with Jacob.
All right. Thanks, Casey. Thanks for having us here today. But I'll just start off kind of where it started, which was back in my grad school days. So as Trish said, my PhD program was in molecular biology from the University of Arkansas. That doesn't really tell the entire story. I was in very much of a interdisciplinary field. So we were doing biological and agricultural engineering, poultry science, and of course, molecular biology. I would say this is where my sales career started. Being that we were in an interdisciplinary, we didn't really fit in with anyone. So we basically had to sell our usefulness to all of the other departments, poultry science, the engineering groups, and certainly the kind of more traditional biology groups. But after leaving there, I joined a small startup company called Pacific Vet Group. We primarily focused in on gut health for poultry and swine via probiotics and direct fed microbials. Being a very small startup company, we wore a lot of hats. So I actually ran a lot of our animal trials, a fair bit of our production on the lactic acid bacteria, and also did tech services. And luckily that eventually paid off. We were acquired by Novozymes, and I believe 2014, 15, somewhere in there, where I made the shift and continued running some of the research, but also shifting towards more of an internal and partnership model. So we weren't working directly with customers on a regular basis at that point, but we were working with partners. For those of you who don't know, Novozymes partners with, this is public knowledge, so I can tell, Adasteo, DSM, Boehringer Ingelheim, and a couple others to distribute animal health products. So I was working as liaison for the BI partnership, with some interface between Adasteo and DSM as well, which I think, Casey, is that where we met? I know you were at.
No, we met.
Yeah.
Oh, at Purina, when you were with Perstop, technically.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm sure we intercrossed in graduate school and dealings and
so.
probably didn't realize it. So
Right. Since then, I decided to leave Novozymes, and I joined a company called Perstorp, which is apparently where Casey and I professionally met. It's been a while, but I was running the U.S. business developments, so it was primarily technical sales, trying to get their footprint started in the U.S., really introducing a lot of their organic acid products and glyceride products, and then since have joined Euroduna, which is a little bit of everything. The bulk of their market is in protein cells, so specialty proteins, hydrolyzed wheats, rice proteins, potato proteins, that kind of stuff for the most part, young animal nutrition. So we focus a lot on swine and young poultry, but also on the organic and non-GMO markets as well. And we have also spun out another company called Fusion Feed Ingredients, which focuses on specialty additives for those markets as well. But I would say, as the title of this roundtable is, that we're all salesmen. So I think I've basically had to be a salesman my entire career, whether it was an internal sales or external customer facing. I've definitely had to do that, and of course, mostly from a technical role. But Casey, is there anything else we need to kind of discuss at this point?
we'll hold off until the roundtable, and then
That's what I was thinking.
yeah. So Kevin, kind of share your background and what led you into sales. And
All right, yeah, and I'd like to thank you for the invitation here today, and really appreciate that term of seasoned sales professional. Makes me feel a lot more important than an old salesperson. So very, very good use of the adjective there. But for me, I think my sales career, I would go all the way back to being a kid in 4-H and having market animals and contacting buyers and things like that really get you started there. And then growing up on the dairy and having the registered cattle that we had and marketing them and getting them sold, I think that was all just led into that. My first off the farm job, I think was maybe at 15, was actually at a local livestock auction and assisting there. So all around sales. As I got into kind of a sales career, having been interested in genetics and developed my own kind of independent AI business. So I was out farm to farm, selling semen, selling my services, got the opportunity to get started with Transova when they opened their Maryland facility. The reason, one of the reasons that I spent 2 years there, loved it, but in getting that started, I found myself really behind a desk And as a farm kid, that was not what I had visioned. I'm really a much outside person, and so the transition to GIA and the equipment side gave me that opportunity to get out and get on farms, get with cattle, not necessarily in the genetic capacity, but I was at least still experiencing that. And one of the things that I've loved with that time at GIA and now back at Transova, and getting at two other operations is the ability to see how everybody does something. Every farm, every operation is different, and seeing how they do things, how they achieve what they're achieving, is kind of very neat and interesting to me, and I love that part of it. But yeah, the jobs has also given me the opportunity to certainly see the country, as kind of the bio mentioned. I had moved to California in 2014. Now that I've rejoined Transova, I've actually in November had the opportunity to move back to Maryland, and yeah, really gotten to see that. But that's kind of been the progression of my sales career.
Great. As things changed, it sounds like, Kevin, you grew up naturally in sales, and Jacob, as you put it, you had to learn to be a salesman. But I hear so many times from graduate students, I do not want to do sales. I'm awful at sales. But selling, explain it in terms how selling is, I guess, in your mind, that it's not as scary as it seems to be, and it's really kind of natural for humans to sell. Is there any thoughts on that aspect?
I think I'll take this lead on this one, since I kind of didn't come from the sales background and had to kind of morph into it. I think when at least when I was in grad school, I interpreted the sales term in that a used car salesman or mattress salesman or something like that, that's just haranguing people and, really kind of the stereotype of what a salesperson would be. And that's certainly not what it is. I think for me, coming from the nutrition side, sales is more about just helping the customer, helping them get the best deal, the most efficient process, helping them see where whatever product that we're using can help them, and in many cases where it can't. I will say from a traditional sales point, I'm probably not a great salesperson. I'm probably okay with telling them that something that we are selling is not the most beneficial for them and pointing them in the correct direction. But that tends to circle back around because of that honesty. So let's just say we do a lot of rice protein. Certainly in a conventional poultry diet, it doesn't. It's not going to net you anything, but in an organic diet, it definitely will. So I'm happy to tell everyone the truth behind that. But I think from a just kind of natural standpoint, that it's a natural thing to be selling. It's just conversation and relationships at the end of the day, at least in the nutrition market, and I'm sure in the genetics as well. It's building those relationships. It's gaining trust and just kind of talking about what you know. So.
Kevin, your thoughts?
Yeah. So for me, I think as he was talking there, I was actually writing one thing down as he actually said it, and that as Jacob said it there, and that was helping the customer. And that's one of the things that I've always enjoyed is being able to make sure the customer's getting what they need. And sometimes it's not the product I've been selling, but and being honest and upfront and helping them, it builds that relationship. And to really think about this is that we're all salesmen, and this just kind of came to me too. And I think about it, and probably most of the people that are listening here, you've you've at some time dated or found a significant other, and you sold yourself. You were a salesman, whether it was the way you wanted to dress. Maybe it was because that guy was cute or that girl was cute, and you laughed at a joke that wasn't funny. You're selling. You're selling yourself because you wanted to date that person. You wanted a relationship. So yeah, it is a natural. We're all there. We've all done it. And but I take that into the sales world, and I've really enjoyed developing relationships with my customers, and I think that's really a key thing to that. The other thing, and I've gone through a number of sales trainings, and I continue to do so. It's every time you gain, you learn. You really got to open up and be out there. And one of the most recent ones talked about three things, and it was attitude, skill, and talent. And yeah, I would say that some individuals have a natural talent. But to me, if you have the right attitude, you can certainly get the skill and the talent. And if you want to go out there and you want to sell and you want to build relationships and you want to help customers and you've got that attitude, yeah, you'll make a great salesman. And the other thing, I heard you say that people say, I don't really want to be a salesman, and part of that is being told no. No sucks. I mean, yeah, but again, I refer back to a training I said, and the guy says, getting a no is great news because you have to get so many no's before you can get a yes. So if you look at it that way, it's like, not every contact is going to be a sale, but there are a certain amount that will be. And so you've got to take those no's to get the yeses. But yeah, so that's where I'd be at with it.
I would agree because I have a great example of a customer that every time I went in, we formed a great relationship, but I was always overpriced or something, right? And everybody asked, well, how did you get them as a customer? I said, I kept asking the question. I kept asking for the sale. And I think those are key things, even as technical people, from my viewpoint, we have a hard time asking for the sale. And then, some of the other problems I think in the sales process on these soft skills is that we don't have very good follow-up. Because if you go in with a meeting and you may have a solution to their problem, but you don't follow up for a week, 2 weeks, you're forgotten about. And so I think those are some of the key things of being organized, as a lot of technical people are trained to be, and being on time. I think those are skills that we have that make good salesmen. Is helping them solve their problems as a technical thought process, and then also having follow-up, but making sure that we keep asking for the sell. And I think I see a lot of young people and things, they struggle with that. And in some of the interviews I had when they're looking for that people, so do you ask them to sell? Do you have a problem with that? And it's no. I mean, what is it going to take for you to buy from me? And you got to keep asking.
Yeah, and I like that. And one of the things that I've always tried to practice, and I've always told people too, and it's right along that, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So you really got to ask and find out. And if it is a verbal no, then you can ask from there, start digging into the whys, and go from there.
Right. And I think one thing on the follow-up as well, if you're not in constant contact with these people, if you don't have those relationships, then just as an example right now, I've got a good relationship with several of our customers around here. We speak on a near daily basis. We'd had a product I've been trying to get in there for a long time. And it was always a no, it just really doesn't fit into our system. And we don't want to overcomplicate things, but they've just shifted to a new emphasis on PAW scores, and this product fit in there perfectly. So I said, okay, well, you guys are doing this now. Is it worthwhile to take a look? So again, if that follow up hadn't been there, if that pre-existing relationship wasn't there, then I wouldn't know that, and we couldn't have got there with the right product at the right time.
I think Rob Musser made a good point, and he can come off audio as well. But if you don't ask for the sale at some point, customers think you don't believe in the product or idea you're selling. So I think that's a very good point.
Yeah, I think the thing you'll see personally, you'll be judged the hardest on is your commitment to what you're there to represent, which means you better have researched the job and the products before you take the job, or you better at least have the time to develop that commitment and belief, or get out of there because it's not going to be a good fit long term. But yeah, at some point, people know why they accepted your invitation to meet, right? They know that you're trying to sell them something at some point. So
I think this fits into the next question we have from the audience. How do you balance selling yourself and your skill set versus selling your product?
I'll jump in and go first on that one, and I'll follow up a little bit with what Rob said. And I believe in what I'm selling and what I'm doing, and I think that's key number one. So from there, no matter what you're selling, you're going to have competitors. There's always going to be questions of price, and what will really help in this balance of selling yourself is building that relationship and making sure that you are the value. What are you bringing along with the product that you're selling versus the product that your competitor is selling? And there's a lot of intangibles there. You can provide a lot of different things no matter what you're selling. If it's if it's a seed corn, are you there when they're planting? Are you there when they're harvesting? Are you there in the winter? So there's there's a lot of different things that you can bring as selling yourself and not just the product that you're representing.
Somebody needs to mute themselves. All right. Sorry. Anybody else have any follow-up on that?
So at least in my viewpoint, and Kevin, you kind of touched on this, that I don't really see it as trying to balance the two. I think they're additive to some extent. I don't feel like when I'm selling a product that I'm cheapening myself. I'm selling a product because it's something I believe in, and it's something that I think that certainly if you're using some of our products, then you can tap into the expertise that we have here in our team. So.
We have another point here. A question is, what are some of the specific soft skills you find useful in developing for sales, both in and out of school, that helps you guys be successful? Kevin, you talked about taking a lot of sales trainings.
Yeah, and I do, and I continue to do that, and every single one, I learn something new, and I am able to implement something. A lot of times you'll get some crossover in them, but I find that the biggest thing that will help is be willing to be open, be willing to be embarrassed. It's going to happen. I still, you got to participate. You got to practice. You got to, if you don't put yourself out there, whether you may have it right, but you may not. And if you're not willing to attempt to get better and to share and to practice your sales and go through a lot of this stuff and really just participate in these things, I find that's the best way for growth, to get uncomfortable. And Casey, you had sent me an invitation to your program with being a mentor, and it's like, man, I'm not comfortable with that at all, but yeah, I'll do it. Let's stretch yourself, and that's how you grow. That's how you get better. And so, Yeah, for me, it's if I have an opportunity, I'm going to take another class. I'm going to read another book, and just, what can I add to what I'm already doing, or what can I change? How can I get better?
Yeah, and I think some of that goes into Jackie's question: soft skills, getting better, practice. How do we make the transition from tech or academia to sales? And I'd say the best thing is practice. And today we're not going to meetings, but asking questions on here is a good option. Participating in different events where you can is a good option. But if you're at meetings, the best time to build your network and practice is going to the bar. You don't have to be a drinker to go to the bar, but that's a good place to practice selling yourself to the industry and also building your network after the meeting.
I can't believe I heard that out of Casey Bradley's mouth.
Sorry.
Well, answer. I was going to say beer, but that's a skill, right? Yeah,
Just
to
make
both of
sure
their points.
if you can't keep up drinking with the Europeans, don't keep drinking.
Yeah, and keeping probably the same thing. That's a great place to network, but keep in mind you still represent your personal brand and your company brands well after work hours.
Yeah.
So definitely. Yeah, and to what Casey and Kevin both said, I think being willing to kind of open yourself is outside of a customer meeting is something that's important. I know things like the Poultry Federation, those meetings, I'm sure they're swine and cattle equivalents, where it's a little bit more of an informal thing. By all means, participate in those. Customer meetings go much smoother, and it's less of an effect if you're told no, if they've already seen you in a wing eating contest or something like that. You've already gone through that embarrassment. But I will, again, as Rob put, that there's a difference between embarrassing wing eating contest and embarrassing yourself at 2 a.m. So.
Yeah, I have a good one here. How do you do follow-up with and being persistent without overly pushy?
I think a lot of that can come from the first contact and how that goes. You've got an idea of whether it is a prospective customer or whether it's not. And again, sometimes I think it comes back to asking, and you're able to simply ask, is it okay if I follow up? If you for me, I feel like I get a lot of the things that I've done throughout my career, some of the jobs that I've had, pride myself on being able to read people very well. And that's something that comes that people can develop and know. And, you get verbal clues, you can get, body language clues as to how they're receiving you, how they're receiving what you're selling. And, but yeah, I think it's, you got to ask, is it okay if I follow up with this? Is it okay if I send you some additional information? And, if you get that, then you really aren't being pushy. There's sometimes that it is going to be a no, like we talked about, and it's that customer's not going to be a good fit, and you get that no and on down the road to find the yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to pick on Anna here if she'll take herself off mute, because I met Anna and she worked in a position at Smithfield where everybody was selling to her. And now she's a technical service salesperson. And it goes into what's some personality types, and can you adjust your personality or sales pitch based on your personality? You've seen a lot of different salesmen in your office. And now you're selling, so.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So, yeah, you see a lot of different people with different strategies, come with a very different story every time they come to visit you. I would say that the one thing that when I was at Smithfield that I learned is that I wanted to hear what everybody has to say. because I want to see if they're bringing something new to me. Of course, that took a lot of my time, and I worked more time than I needed anyway because of that, but that's okay. But I've seen things that people would bring information to me that they were not what we were looking for. So we have to explain to them. It's like, okay, bringing to me information about one farm 1 year and another, in that same farm the next year, that is not technical. That does not bring the information I need to make changes to the animals I am looking over today. So bringing that information to whoever is bringing whatever research they have or they call research, you have to educate them and tell them, hey, this is not what I need to make a conscientious and well-based change in my job. So that was very important for me. But listening to whatever people have to say was important. And I figured out that people that came with that standard the first time, I have seen them a few years later today, and they are doing really well. They are doing their academic research, doing commercial research, and they are moving forward, doing that, and their product is growing in the market. So, of course, if you don't have a personality that you are open to be adjustable in different situations, you might be in trouble. So you have to train yourself to be able to do that, because you will find all kinds of people in the market too that will be doing their job. And sometimes they will give you an answer that is a no, and it's just because they cannot use your product at this time because of the current economical situation they are living in. They cannot afford to put anything in their diet. It's not because they don't like you or anything, but it might seem very, it is not that they are against you or they are arrogant or anything. It's just they cannot use that because of their choice of how they are dealing with the ingredients in their system at this point. I don't know if that helps you.
Yeah, I think that brings up a really good point. Is you're not as being as pushy if you understand the market and you're always bringing something new to the table. If you have a product that costs $10 a treated ton to put in and saves the customer $1, then that's a $9 net loss. If you keep haranguing them on a weekly basis with nothing new, no new research trials, no knowledge of grain markets or anything like that, then that's being pushy, and I'm sure you can agree that you start pushing those off into the junk folder of the email.
Yeah. And also in that situation, you have to realize that they are busy. They have their own life to take care. So you have to be very conscientious what you want to share with the people that they're doing their job. In the other side of the table, that the people told me when I left Smith, oh, you are in the dark side now. I was like, I don't think it's the dark side. It's just a different side. So you have to be open to accept what are your opportunities and what are the things that people are not going to listen to you right now. It is like last year, and we still have some issues with in the swine side with all the reduction of harvesting and issues that we got on lowering the growth of the animals. This is a problem that is not going to disappear in a month or two. People say, oh, it's going to get better. It's going to get better, but it's not going to be tomorrow. There are some areas that are better. There are some areas that are worse. So you have to be conscientious that, okay, you can try to sell to them, but you have to understand and be open to understand what they are doing in their business, so you are not pushing too much to the point that they're going to say, I'm not going to see this person anymore. That's it.
Yeah. I'm going to take some feedback that from Kevin's comments and Jacob's too through this is it's okay sometimes to reach out and just see how things are going and check in. But what Jacob described and stuff is pushy. Those people who keep calling me to buy their product, even though it doesn't price in, and you're a nice person, even if you don't take a sales role, how do you sell back to say this? Maybe it's being clearer, the expectations you need before you're allowed to call me again.
And if I could jump in there, I think Anna had my biggest point that I took away from her from that buyer side is she mentioned in there that when people would come to her and she would say, "This is not what I'm looking for," and I think as a salesperson, it's good to know. I've taken a DISC profile. What's the personality that you're dealing with, and being able to identify that. And within that, you've got, depending on the position that buyer holds within that company, the role that they're filling. You may have a buyer that's analytical, that needs all the information, the tech information, the things like that. You might have an accounting type of buyer that just, I want to see the numbers. I don't care about this part. Just I need to see the numbers. I need to know that the bottom line makes sense if I go with your product. So I think being able to identify that personality of the buyer for that company definitely plays a key role, so that when you do come in, you are presenting the information that is relevant to them, that's going to help them make that decision to make the buy. I think for me, it's that identifying the personalities and knowing the role and what they're actually looking for to provide that.
One thing also, like whenever you say that's not what I want, you have to explain what are the things that you're looking for. Because just saying that that's not what you want, it's not going to move them to any space on that time that they are at that moment. So even saying that, I'll have people at that time that would be calling me every month. So I want you to talk to this person. It's like, no, you didn't have anything yet. Don't even call me anymore. And I was clear saying to them that it's like, I don't have anything to say to you at this point.
I think, and I think for a salesperson, you're talking from the buyer perspective, but as a salesperson, it's my job to know and to get, and so some of those things as we go in, you can say, okay, what are your goals? You get their goals. What is your plan to get there? You understand those things, and now by asking those questions, you should know what they are looking for and how, if you can assist them, and how you can assist them. So it's really, to me, asking those questions really gets them thinking, do they really know their goals? Do they really know how they're going to achieve their goals? And really gets you into that conversation, we go back, we talked about relationships, helps you build that relationship, because now you're asking about their business. You're showing that you want to help them. If you've got a plan that works with what they're doing to achieve that. And I really think it falls on the salesperson to really ask the right questions versus, in my mind, if I've got that buyer telling me that, I didn't bring the right thing, I haven't asked the right questions.
And I think this goes into a great conversation. Katie made some points. A lot of technical people coming out with masters and PhDs and know how to do mRNA sequencing, but don't know what the diet costs are or haven't looked at the futures. And sometimes you do cold sales, and you have to, what I call initial sales, is asking those right questions, right? Discovery, sales call of learning what they need and then coming back with what you may have to help them. But if you can't talk that lingo, if you don't understand the key drivers and you don't understand the conversations they're having, it's really hard for you to even ask those right questions. So preparing to go into the industry, working in production helped me understand that. Working with multiple feed additive companies in my role in graduate school helped me be able to ask some of those questions. And I think that's just understanding that. And then sometimes technical people just get thrown through the wolves and they don't even have that concept of how do I do a discovery call to understand, or what questions I should be asking. But sometimes you can also tell by sitting on the side of Anna was when I was at Kalmbach that they don't understand my market at all. They don't even know what to ask me. They may have the perfect solution, but they can't ask the right questions so they can guide the conversation into that direction.
That is one thing, Casey, that I think you can have the best product in the world, but if you don't understand your customer or what they are looking for, or even if they are not looking for, but understand what are their problems, you cannot offer something to them that fits their system.
I had a good question here with a whole bunch of us on here that have direct reports and stuff. There is, when looking for jobs, a lot of times we say needs to have a proven track record of sales. How do some of these people coming out of college either write the resume to apply for that, or what experiences do they need to have, or is there some entry-level sales jobs? And I think that's kind of their question on that, is a lot of times we want to experience, but we offer limited opportunities for students to get experience.
I would echo what Kevin said. Everybody has sales experience, and so you need to explain what your sales experience is. It may be something related to, jobs you've had during college or before that, or different activities, but I mean, you've had to sell your concepts. So when you have limited there, show that you've thought through the process if you don't have the experience.
I think from kind of a tech sales perspective, some of the things I tend to look at, obviously a lot of these people have been, the last 4 or 5 years in a master's and Ph.D. program. So it's not like they've been able to get out there and do a lot of actual sales roles, but looking at some of their past presentations at conferences. Are they doing these extra things that are going through universities, the smaller Arkansas Food Protection Association type meetings? Are they getting out there and really presenting, talking to people, and kind of selling their own research? So,
are they members?
Yes.
So I may have a little bit of a different take on this, and I think a little bit of that in my mind is a bogus job description. I don't like it as a job description. Been around for 5 years. You don't have it. You just don't. And for me, as for somebody that has reports, the most important thing to me is attitude. I go back to that. If you've got the attitude, that's what I'm looking for. And in the breaking new grounds with that mentor, we kind of discussed some of this within that. And when you're looking for a job, and to me, I think a lot of times the people that write job descriptions have gotten so into the habit of putting, well, you need this.
Oh no, we lost him. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
So we lost Kevin. I think some of the other point, Edward, can you take yourself off mute and ask that question?
Yes, I was just saying, combining everybody's points. Would you describe selling as providing the right information to the right person in the company to meet the right need in the right way?
I think in a perfect situation, yes. That you would have exactly what they need at the right time and be selling it to the right person that's open to it. But that's a bit of a unicorn type situation. very rarely do you have exactly what they need at exactly the right time. I would say a lot of it is planting seeds. So it is the right product. It's just waiting on the right scenario and occasionally waiting on the right person. I have more than a few customers, and Casey may know some of them, that they have to come to the conclusion, and they're not ever going to be persuaded by anyone except themselves. So it's always just planting that seed of here's my solution to this problem. You're currently having it, and then occasionally reminding them that they have that problem and that you have a solution, and eventually they'll come around, hopefully. So.
Actually, what you said, it made me think about one thing that I always talk to the group that I'm working with is like, sometimes what I want when I end a meeting is just to look at the person that I'm talking to and have the feel that you are starting to see that the gears in their mind are starting to roll and they are thinking about what you said. Mm-hmm. And that is going to bring some other questions in their mind, and they'll come back to you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would say that, in this, there's the kind of the right time. So there certainly is, it's not always the right time, but there certainly is a wrong time. So I've always heard the story from a fellow nutritionist, and someone was coming in and they had this enzyme, and it was amazing, and it broke down barley incredibly well. And they're just saying how much this would save you if you're running 20 to 30% of barley in your poultry diets. And at the time he said, we don't even grow up in the US when this was going on. So that was, so to this day, he still tells that story. And then definitely the salesperson who brought that to him and was haranguing him for months and months was always pointed out. So.
Kevin, it looks like you're back. So I was curious if you just kind of want to touch on the last points. I think we heard most of what you said, but right there at the end, you were kind of cut off.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, where I was headed with that is I encourage that group that, if you see a position that you're interested in and a line of work that you're interested in, I'd encourage you to go, even if you don't have all the requirements that are being asked of within that job description, go ahead and apply. And I go back to the Casey, which we were talking earlier. If you don't apply, then the answer is no. You're not going to get the job. And to me, I said I always look for that attitude and the willingness and the excitement that, hey, this is the career that I want. This is the job that I want. And that's one of the things for me that's most important. And then, the other touch a little bit on what Anna and Jacob said there too. And again, it goes along a little bit with if you don't ask for the sale, the answer is always no. And Anna talked about seeing the gears running. And one of the things that I've also learned, kind of, if you see that and you want to pull those questions out of that prospective buyer, is it's a little bit all in how you phrase the question. And I say that to say it's not to say, do you have any questions? Because most of the times they're just going to say no. They have a question. So you ask it, what questions do you have? And it's amazing how much more that'll pull a question out of a person, just the way you phrase that. And again, you go to, it's not, can I send you any additional information? It's what additional information can I send you? Just phrasing things like that. And as you see those gears working, being able to really pull those questions out of a prospective buyer.
Good points. And I think Katie touched on too, we're mixing selling and getting jobs here, but I think a lot of the students here are looking for jobs. And it's a common thread through most of our sessions we've had. How are you selling yourself in your research? How are you selling other stuff? How are you personal branding yourself as the expert in this area? Either sharing your research, sharing your passion. How are you representing yourself, the university, and through those channels? We talked about LinkedIn channels, Facebook, Instagram. If you're selling yourself about all the parties you went to with your friends and how many beers you drank, that's not a good representing yourself or your future brand of your company. So, a lot of that stuff sticks with you, and it's, if you're going to be professionals, then even your social media has to be professionals. What my husband shares on his Facebook stream versus me is totally different, and I'm very kind of cautious, especially now where I thought I've had good intentions has turned out to be negative. So you have to start thinking about that kind of stuff and representing yourself. Are you memorable? And a lot of people are memorable, but not for the right things.
I think that brings up a good point. Animal health and nutrition and just ag in general is a very small group. There's a difference between being famous and infamous.
Yeah, that's what I always say, Jacob, is the nice thing about the animal science industry is it's a very small group. The thing to keep to remember is it's a very small group.
Exactly.
Your point. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what you'll love, it's what you'll love about it, really.
Yeah. One other thing is that if you are old enough, you may think that it was good that there was no media when you were younger.
Amen.
Yeah, for us,
I feel like a lot of us probably wouldn't have jobs if we had TikTok when we were growing up. But
there you go.
But Teresa's made a good point here on that experience, and I think this goes into selling yourself on your CVs, is wording it right, tailoring it for the job. Internships count as experience, projects and stuff, and that kind of stuff. So if you were like Jacob in graduate school, you worked with a multidisciplinary team on your research project. You worked across 3 departments. Maybe you were in charge of managing 3 students underneath you, undergrads, and kind of using some of that in your description of what you did.
I know we've just hired somebody, Casey, in the East, and looking for somebody else out there. And the thing that separated out some people that didn't have the sales experience for a sales role is the people that would spend the time and do the homework to explain why they thought they were a fit or how they fit in, maybe how to look at the position a little differently because of what they know about the market. When we see somebody take the time to do their homework, the one thing that always happens is you say, if this person isn't a fit for me, can I send them somewhere else that maybe is a better fit, right? I mean, you will get, the more time you put into the showing that you care to understand what's going on, and the more effective you'll get responses back. It may still not be the right fit, but somebody might go, well, I know this genetics company is looking for somebody, and pass it along. So.
Yeah, and I think that kind of personality and research would transfer into a sales role. I'm certainly not going to look at a salesperson that comes in for an interview and says, so what do you guys do? that shows me that they are not the kind to prepare before meeting anyone. So.
Yeah, and I'd jump in. I really like that comment that Rob made. And I'm, in the role that I'm currently in, and even in my past, when I've looked for jobs, I've worked with a number of recruiters that still contact me today and say, hey, Kevin, do you know somebody in this area that might be a fit for that? And so, yeah, if you've shown that effort and you come in, and you may not be a fit for what we're looking for, but again, the networking and hey, why don't I heard about this, or why don't you contact this person? And yeah, it's certainly there if you've put that in, and might be a good fit in another role.
And that works on the opposite way too. If you come in and really don't have a good showing, then again, it's a small industry, so.
I think this is
the one thing, Casey, we didn't tell people is the comment that Katie made is if you do have interest in working for a company, reach out to them even if they don't have a job, because a lot of the HR directors don't open positions till they know they have the budget and everything. But if they know who's looking and if they see candidates that could be a fit, they'll think about that for the future. So don't be afraid to reach out to a company you'd like to work for, even if they don't show a job opening.
I think I got a really good question here that could be cross gamuts here on getting a job or being a salesman. How do you measure success? And there's several ways to answer that question. Is it, dollars sold? Is it, and I think that depends on the role because, and your manager's expectations, because I know for technical sales and nutrition, it could be a 1 to 2 year sale. So Kevin, what are your thoughts? How have you always measured success where maybe it's a quicker sell?
Actually, sometimes we've been pretty much about a year. So on a lot, there are some quicker sales, but for me, it is certainly number one. You're going to want to set some goals for yourself, and you certainly want those goals to be attainable. I think that's a pretty good measure of success there. And but to me, there's a lot of other things that come into that, is building relationships and helping. To me, I might not have got a sale, but if I helped a customer, that's a success. So there's a lot of things that can go into that, not just achieving goals, achieving sales. It's helping customers, it's building relationships. And that's where I would see myself being considering it a success.
I think I would agree with that. It's at least from my standpoint. Again, it's helping the customer, and whether it's controlling an outbreak of gangrenous dermatitis or something like that, even if it's not our product that we're helping with, it's stocking of brownie points, I guess, would be a good way. Certainly money helps. It keeps the lights on, but that shouldn't be the only metric by which you grade yourself.
Yeah, I mean, how good do you feel about that you represented yourself and your brand when you go in there and ask you, did I do the best I could? Did I represent the product the best I could? Did I ask the right questions? And I always deem success too is, did I learn something today? I always love going into meetings to learn just as much as I teach somebody. And that usually sets me up to get the sale, the dollar one that matters to keep my job later on. But that's how I always measure something. Did I learn something? Was it worth my time? Because, when I was at AB Vista, I traveled 80 to 90% of the time. I was constantly feeling like I had to be there, on the ground with my customers sharing something new. In hindsight, maybe I needed to be a little more critical of what I defined as success of some of those meetings and that time spent. Any last minute thoughts as we are out of time?
I think one that you just talked about how you think about your time and how you manage your time. One thing that I would like to make a reminder for everybody that is starting their life. You may put a lot more time than you would put in your job as you age. But remember that you have to have your own life. Do not get to the point that you are working 12 hours a day, and I mean 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because that is not going to make it. That is going to turn your life in a little torture. You may enjoy what you're doing, but you don't have a life, a personal life. So be careful about how you manage your time.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you to the sponsors. Rob had to jump off. Thank you, Anna.